the last couple of people standing to please take their seats. All right. So we're starting off with Thematic Track 8, which is Climate Tech Startups for Sustainable Development. The session aims to explore the transformative potential of climate tech startups in driving innovation and delivering scalable solutions for sustainable development across the sectors. The focus areas of discussion will be on how the carbon markets can enhance the scalability of climate tech solutions, required policy frameworks, partnerships, and entrepreneurial ingenuity that will shape the future of our planet. First, I'd like to call upon the stage our chair and moderator for this session, Dr. Ashok Kumar, Deputy Director General, BEE. Could we have a round of applause, please? Dr. Ashok Kumar is presently working as a Deputy Director General at BEE. He has led the implementation of the National Mission on Enhanced Energy Efficiency under the National Action Plan for Climate Change of India, and he's currently part of the core team working on the Indian carbon market. I would now like to call upon the panelists for this session. First, we have Mr. Ashish Agarwal, Professor, Business Sustainability, IIM Lucknow. Do we have Mr. Ashish Agarwal here with us? All right. I'll move ahead. We also have Mr. Sarang Nerkar, co-founder, InnoSapient Technologies Private Limited. Thank you for joining us. We have Mr. Dhananjay Goyal, co-founder, Detoxify. We have Mr. Sparsh Agarwal, co-founder, Alt Carbon. Can we keep the applause going, everybody, for our panelists? We have Mr. Siddhant Jayaram, founder, Equilibrium. And we have Mr. Alok A. Deshmukh, co-founder, Superhuman Race. Thank you all for joining us today, and thank you for the audience for getting the applause going for all our moderators and panelists. Okay. Dr. Kumar, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon. I think this session is very important, and we are not only talking technology, but it's a startup technology, the new technology, innovative technology. And all of you in the climate space, what we call is the three means of implementation, and the top is the technology. And all the promise, or rather all the hopes are on the technology. And all of you know that there are various challenges of climate mitigation, of the scale and scope that we are kind of left with. Many of you might know that as per the IPCC's sixth assessment report, the space out there in the atmosphere is very limited. You know, they give the number of around 400 to 500 gigatons in the space, beyond which possibly the 2 degrees centigrade, 3 degrees centigrade cardinal lines will be broken. And we are sitting at a point in time that many experts say that we have already breached 6 out of 9 planetary boundaries. So we are in a very, very kind of precarious situation if we are honestly recognizing it. And in that midst of, you can say, challenges, the promise, the hope is from the technology. And we have technologies, legacy technologies, current technologies, and of course the stellar people like here who are bringing out a list of technologies that can really make the changes, make the impact, and so that we can at least arrest the global temperature or the climate shift to the extent that is needed for the sustainability of the earth and the survivability of the humankind here. And we must recognize that the species who is in danger is this particular two-legged species. The rest of the species, they can survive, they can very well recoup, and many things they can do on their own. So recognizing those vulnerabilities, I think it is my privilege to host, or rather moderate, the session with, such innovators, with such a promise of, particularly in the climate space. So I would be uh, kind of structuring my, I have a set of questions to be asked, and maybe I may divert from those questions, but kindly let me do so. But I would, you would have a larger framework where you would respond to is that, you are distinct in your space, your innovations are very distinct, your area of play is very distinct. So for benefit of the community here, I would request that in a larger context of how your startup, each of you, how your startup is going to fit in the context where, in your respective context, and what would be the contribution, what would be the promise, and what would be the possible challenges that you see taking your startup to a scale and the kind of that speed that we need for the mitigations to happen. So those would be very, very valuable. So I would not structure you in a question form to respond to, but I would request you to respond in a way which is suitable to this larger context of technological intervention that can give us the outcome and the impact that would result in a situation of in the timelines of like 2030, 2047 or 2030, so that we can have a sense of a visibility of those technologies, how they are going to play in the times to come. So those are my kind of thought, and I would first call upon Mrs. Sarang. I think I will go through a little bit of your introduction here. And the rest, I think you would, he has worked with the professor called Steve Mann, and who is called the father of wearable computing. So I can see his picture with, I think, possibly a Google kind of a spectacle that can see through many of the things that we cannot see. So, all these technological, you can say, integration that he has done in the process of rest, I think I would request you to yourself tell to the audience, and particularly the innovation and the startup that, your startup has been recognized in the Prime Minister's conference. So over to you, please.
Thank you, sir. And thank you for having me here. Like you mentioned, what you see in this picture is a wearable computer, and my research was on wearable computing, computational photography, and artificial intelligence at the University of Toronto. And one of the key things that we focused on, and that the startup InnoSapien also focuses on, is good quality data. How can we get access to data or information that is traditionally not available to us? Which is why we developed a wearable plant phenotyping platform that allows you to detect various stresses, various parameters in plants that are not visible to the naked eye. And that is how we started working in this space. We actually started from developing technology for agriculture, being able to detect various parameters in crops, whether it is pest, diseases, and deficiencies prior to any visible damage to the crops, or whether it be parameters such as detecting sucrose in grapes, or detecting sucrose in sugarcane, or detecting curcumin in turmeric. And when we were developing this, we developed a novel sensing platform, which is what goes into the headset, actually. So our intellectual property is on the sensing mechanism that allows you to detect these biotic and abiotic stresses. Once you're able to detect these stresses, you can then make predictions as to what advisories need to be given to farmers so that the crops can grow better. So as you might have figured out, our focus is on nature-based solutions. So that is primarily on agriculture, agroforestry, and forestry projects. And when we were developing this platform, it's a data and AI platform. When we developed this platform, our focus was primarily on optimizing agriculture. And one of the key things that we worked on was reducing chemical footprint in vegetables. So we worked on making green chili chemical residue free so that it can be exported. And the export bit was the incentive, because in export markets you get higher rates for the produce. So the same tonnage of produce gives you higher value when you're able to sell it in premium markets. And that was an incentive. For this, we won an award from the World Bank Group, actually. And when we presented our platform to the World Bank Group, they told us that, well, you're doing parametric analysis of plants in various kinds of parameters. Can you do a carbon sequestration, like can carbon sequestration be a parameter that you can analyze? And we quickly started working on that. And we have now developed models for 3 carbon pools, that is above ground biomass, below ground biomass, and soil organic carbon, so that you can do these measurements without having to take any samples to the lab. Because our wearable platform helps us bring the technology that allows you to do these assessments to the field. And that is how our carbon journey started. And today we are focusing on developing a digital monitoring, reporting, and verification platform such that there can be transparency in the carbon market. But how do we differentiate ourselves from a traditional DMRV platform is in the innate nature of our technology. We focus on enhancing the productivity of the plants themselves. So not only are we focusing on bringing in more transparency in the carbon market, specifically in the nature-based solutions, but also giving advisories to the farmers so that the nature-based solutions themselves are higher yielding and they are able to bring in better quality results. So I will stop with my monologue for now and allow my colleague to go ahead.
I think, thank you. I think it's so promising that, the nature-based solution is getting so much traction in the times to come, and bringing out the farmers, and then the digital MRV, where possibly the subjectivity of the verifiers can be eliminated to a large extent. Those are the promises of technology, I think, and the kind of scale that particularly a country like India, when we go full throttle, we would need hundreds and thousands of verifiers to engage in this kind of. So I think the excellent intervention that promised this particular technology can give us in this format. So next I move to Mr. Dhananjay, CEO of Detoxify, and I think the title itself is saying many things, so I would not get into. But again, you are using the technology of blockchains and other artificial intelligence and all that, the things that we now are used to coming terms with. So again, the floor is yours. So kindly, the way you would like to have your own. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, I'll keep it super simple. So my name is Dhananjay. Again, thank you so much for having us. I don't know if we're the only ones who might not be using blockchain and AI on this panel, but we do use advanced chemical processing technology. So in a very simple nutshell, we build water filters using waste wood. So we convert wood, which is no longer needed, into water filters. Basically, हम लकड़ी के filter बनाते हैं, and we make these filters for human use, human consumption. So very, very simply, we build 50 to 100 rupee water filters. These are really cheap water filters. We currently supply them to the Indian Army, a little bit to the Indian Army. And we are now starting to also supply them in urban slums. So basically, think of it as a local kirana store product, a local grocery store product, where you can buy a bag, a sort of a biodegradable plastic bag, fitted with a wooden filter, which is replaceable. So what we hope to do is, working on SDG 6, we hope to decentralize wastewater treatment, which essentially means that can we give humans the power to be able to filter their own water without the use of electricity at a cost which is affordable, to serve the billions of people that currently do not have access to clean water. The reverse osmosis, RO filters or ceramic filters is a very small part of our overall population. So how can we enable people who are down at the bottom of the pyramid in a way? How can we enable them to be able to filter their own water? I'm not the main I'm a co-inventor with a professor at MIT. So I was at Harvard. I just returned back a year back, and while I was in Boston, I worked with a professor at MIT, Professor Rohit Karnik, to be able to build these filters. He's the main inventor. I'm the co-inventor of these filters. I'm an engineer myself. Went to IIT Delhi with God's grace, and really love what we do. So that's what we do. So at Detoxify, we're building Jal Kavach, Jal Suraksha. These are our 2 products. One is Jal Kavach and one is Jal Suraksha. These are products that we provide, like I said, one product we provide to the Indian Army, and the other product we provide to households. This provides, for 100 rupees, one human can get water for 1 month for just 100 rupees, and we provide Ayurvedic, clean drinking, filtered water. We tested it in the Yamuna River, we tested it at the Mahakumbh, we tested it, and we were able to sort of like NABL certified, really high quality water. So with God's grace, hopefully next year we come to you with even more sort of innovations. But again, thank you so much, and I'm sure we can use AI and blockchain somewhere. I'm not sure where, but we are maybe core engineers, so we sometimes focus on the chemical and mechanical nature of the work. Anyways, but thank you so much.
So thanks. I think, you are engineers from IIT Delhi and with the MIT and so.
It's fun. It's
So,
real fun.
yeah, so I think, and the context, it is the time, the time is right now, yahi samay hai, sahi samay hai, like, and people like you are the players, Virat Kohlis of the technology, so you need to really respond to. Now I take to Mr. Sparsh, he is again, yeah, Sparsh is there. So I kind of take to you he's a fourth generation tree plantation, he inherited that tradition, I think, and of the tea estate, and he's doing, alt carbon kind of the enterprise where, again, leading to the possibility of getting the carbon-related, carbon dioxide removal through the enhanced weathering. So is it like a rock weathering or what kind of thing? So please let us know. So floor is yours.
Thank you so much, sir, for having us. So as you said, we undertake carbon removal through a technology pathway called enhanced rock weathering. Before I come to that, I'll just give you some context about what we do as a company. So me and my younger brother, Shrey, we are fourth generation tea planters. Our family has been in the tea plantation business for about 3 generations. Our family manages tea estates in Darjeeling, North Bengal, and the northeastern part of India. And in 2020, when the pandemic hit, at that point we realized that our family's Darjeeling tea estate that was on the verge of bankruptcy and collapse. So there were a number of different reasons that were, leading up to it, from market-linked reasons to climate change-related reasons. For example, every year around this time is when the harvest usually begins in Darjeeling. Now we see that the harvest begins in middle of March because your harvest period is reducing. So for a number of reasons, we were facing structural issues. And then during the pandemic, the main lockdown when it happened, we lost about most of our harvest. So in 2020, they wanted to sell it off. So at that point, we started looking at carbon markets to see if we can use that to create supplementary sources of income for these large tea estates in Darjeeling, thereby transforming them from being at risk of climate change impact to becoming the frontier of climate action. So we actually looked at a number of different pathways. We looked at a lot of avoidance-based pathways and nature-based pathways, but we weren't really convinced that they are actually net good for the environment. And so the main basis for why we started this company was, as you mentioned, sir, the IPCC report. That particular IPCC report also mentioned that, you mentioned the carbon budget, about we only have about 400 to 500 gigatons that we have left. So that IPCC report also goes on to mention that on an annual basis, by 2050, we need to remove 10 gigatons or 10 billion tons of carbon every year. Right now, we're removing 0.01% of it. So alt carbon undertakes carbon removal. And the way that we do it is there are 6 technology pathways to do it. Planting a tree is one way to remove carbon, but that doesn't remove it permanently. The other technology pathways, the most popular one is direct air capture. That's the one that everyone knows about. You set up these large vats, they remove carbon directly from the atmosphere. In our pathway, it's a bit more ingenious and it doesn't use as much energy or as much capital. The basic principle is that when rain falls on mountains, it weathers away these mountains. So the CO2 in the rainwater interacts with the silicates in the rocks in these mountains, and that chemical reaction leads to the CO2 to be broken down into bicarbonates. And these bicarbonates then move through river networks and they're deposited into the ocean where they become corals and seashells. So essentially you're creating corals from the CO2 in the clouds. What we do is we take volcanic rock dust in the dust form, so where the particulate matter is higher, and we spread it on agricultural land. Now, in our case, we use basalt. Now, basaltic rocks are high in silicate content, but they also improve the soil nutrients. So they improve the soil pH levels. So that is the co-benefit that it provides to farmers. It improves the crop yield and the farmer's income. And in that process, during the monsoons, as the rains come in, the torrential rainfall also removes carbon, and that goes to the Bay of Bengal, where it becomes corals. Now, where's the tech element to all of this? The scientific calculation of what we do is notoriously difficult. So to accurately calculate how we remove carbon, how much carbon is being removed, and whether the removed carbon is going to the ocean, you need teams of scientists working on geochemistry, geology, and computational models. So to your point about whether there is an application of reinforced learning to what we are doing. And our models are able to very accurately predict that. And we actually work with some of the top scientists in India in the earth sciences domain from the Indian Institute of Science, as well as at a couple of the IITs. And now we're in fact even creating a research cluster specifically to promote research on carbon removal, where we have certain international partners like Stanford who are coming in to join us to provide even further support for research questions on carbon removal. So we undertake carbon removal through the enhanced weathering pathway in our family's tea estates in Darjeeling. And we generate the credits, and we're primarily right now in the voluntary carbons market. However, we're starting to see that it's already getting integrated into a lot of the compliance markets. So for example, a lot of people have spoken about Corsia. So a couple of the clients that we're speaking to are airline companies, and they see that just relying on nature-based solutions, the reputation risk is very high. So that's why they want to pay a higher amount, but they want to rely on a durable tech pathway as well. In the same way, I know that the Bureau of Energy Efficiency is also negotiating the joint crediting mechanism with Japan right now. In Japan, carbon removal credits, as you know, obviously, sir, has already gotten integrated into the Japan ETX. So because the GX ETS is now looking at that kind of transferability, we look at those kind of compliance markets opening up in the next couple of years as well.
Thank you, Mr. Sparsh. And now we have two panelists who are sitting at the middle of fringe, or rather in the boundary of technology and finance. So these people are, there is a technology, now we move to, so I will go to Mr. Alok first from the superhuman race to just again my question to let us, the audience, know the kind of work at the interface of technology and finance, the various parameters of accounting and the technology interface in that process, and that how it can enable the larger action part in the technology. So, Mr. Alok, floor is yours.
Sure, yeah. Thank you for having us here. So we actually have a data platform, and we are helping scale climate action for clientele spread across 31 countries at the moment and valued at around $500 billion. And what we are doing for them is we're helping them, helping unlock access to right-priced capital for them by providing them investment-grade insights that is based on 100% raw primary data. And for anybody that's in this space of reporting on data for impact will know that with data, usually the acceptable norm is 20% data, 80% extrapolation. And what that essentially means is that the data is just not investment grade. And that's the problem that we are setting out to solve in very elegant ways. And then, so some of the ways we are doing it is that we've democratized data capture. We essentially make the access to our platform available to data owners wherever they are, and ask them for only the data that they have and only ask for the data once. And then all manner of coefficient formulae factors get generated on top of the granular data. So we've had instances of, we've closed years of reporting with assurance done on the platform with auditor access, where 100% primary data is captured for all scopes, including scope 3, with 100% evidence. So very high degree of reliability in the data is built into the system. And we're actually not using blockchain. I often say that using blockchain for climate action is like eating ice cream to kill the common cold. Cold kills cold is not really the way it works. And we also see very, very practical challenges actually, because even integrating with simple accounting systems can be a challenge. Leave alone, integrating a blockchain proof of work kind of a system. We do use a lot of AI-based rules for data capture to get to 100% raw primary data coverage. Some of the things that we use AI for is matchmaking suggestions for indicator sets that need to be tracked, for self-structuring of data sets so that import or integration with legacy systems can be done using whatever format the legacy systems are putting out in terms of their export formats. And also what we call OCR++ or data sentry, where part of the challenge with evidence is that even a simple electricity bill format is not uniform across jurisdictions. And how do you train models to kind of recognize the exact KWH number that needs to be picked up? And from there on, then all the coefficient factors and formulae can be applied. So those are some of the things that we're doing. We do on-the-fly benchmarking, internal and external where available and desirable. Variance flagging, so whenever something is more than 25% up or down from the previous reporting period, which is usually monthly at least, then the variances get flagged. We're able to do root cause analysis for indiscriminately or disproportionately high emissions impact in a matter of seconds. It's the kind of thing we've had folks that have been in sustainability teams in client organizations say that it would take them weeks to get to like the, pinpoint the aspect of impact or the what's driving that increase. And flags for missing data or faulty rule, pattern matching algorithms where we are using some DNA pattern matching algorithms to flag duplicates or anomalies in large data sets. So that's kind of what we do. I'll stop there. And
thank you. Now I come to Mr. Siddhant. You would kindly, you are a tech person, and then you into the finance, and then again with your 2-3 ventures, then you again went into kind of a mitigation or the action, the part of it. So not only, you would kind of inform us of your ventures also, and give us a sense of, how, given the kind of, options that we would exercise in terms of the innovations that are coming up, then what could be the broader scale of finance or the kind of scope of finance in broader sense that, where we would be leading to, and if you could give some kind of a timeline or something, a ballpark picture so that, we can, as a particularly the entities like Bureau, you would give some kind of a, say, light at the end of tunnel that we could see, then we can start walking. So please, floor is yours.
Yeah, sure, sir. Firstly, thank you for having all of us here. I think 4 years ago when I started in this space, if I had thought that the Indian government would be organizing its first Indian carbon market, was that a possibility? I didn't think so, but it's great to see the government taking a proactive role in terms of at least bringing together this dialogue, right? To see how we can start to mandate some of the carbon emissions and start to get finance for mitigation and adaptation pathways. So thank you for the initiative that's taken by the Ministry of Power. So coming to my background, and I'll answer your question as well, right? I actually moved back to India in 2015. Was very swayed by the tech ecosystem in India. That was the year when Ola, Flipkart, Zomato, all of them ended up raising at billion-dollar valuations. And the goal was like, hey, there is going to be more and more tech companies that are going to come and solve critical India-focused problems, right? And 2016, I ended up joining the VC ecosystem and ended up seeing almost 100 unicorns being created in 5 years across different segments. But largely consumer was the category that ended up creating a lot of value, and then financial services and fintech ended up creating a lot of value. So this was what I was observing as a venture capitalist. And in 2020, much like Sparsh, during COVID, you had more time to think, you were at home, and I was like, hey, what can we do to solve the climate change problem? That was possibly the year where, we saw a lot of climate disasters, whether it was in California, Australia, or back home in India. We were seeing a lot of climate-related disasters, right? And 2020 was when I was like, hey, what can I do to use my skills, right? I had spent 5 years in finance, moving capital from different institutions across the globe to Indian startups, right? And I was like, let me take a sharper angle in climate and see what can be done. And ended up stumbling upon the carbon market problem, right? And as I dug deep into the problem statement, one stat just blew my mind, right? Tesla's biggest revenue stream outside of sale of cars was actually sale of compliance credits in the local Californian ETS market, right? It's almost to the tune of $1 billion every quarter. Like even now, if you go and see their balance sheet, their second line item is, sale of compliance carbon credits. So essentially for a decade, Tesla's innovation was hanging on possibly a second revenue stream that not many people know about it. In fact, there were a lot of short sellers who were questioning Tesla's second revenue streams in 2020, 2021, right? This was the year their sort of market cap went to probably 3 or 4 times what it was. And that's when I woke up and said, hey, if a company like Tesla can do it in the US, why can't we have more companies in our country benefit from schemes like these, right? And that's how we started the journey. I actually started my first venture called Climbs in 2021 to see how we could democratize more finance to come into carbon avoidance and carbon removal solutions. The thesis was if you make carbon more and more transparent and more easily understandable to the common person, it eventually will create that flywheel for everyone to get involved. So in 2021, we ended up creating a platform where we would measure carbon footprint and give the ability for either consumers, brands, or enterprises to go carbon neutral, right? So we ended up working with the likes of Make My Trip, Yatra. So if you look at your carbon neutralization on Make My Trip or Yatra, we ended up doing that with clients, right? So for about 2 years, we started channeling capital into different solutions, whether it was cook stoves, whether it was removals. We wanted to focus much on removals because we thought that's where the capital was more required, because I think the additionality aspect of renewables at that point was already sort of solved for, right? So we were quite amazed by the responses that we got from Indian consumers, right? We got to about 200,000 consumers in about 9 months, right? Just because we were at checkouts, it was easily accessible, and we channeled close to about $400,000 in 1 year, right? But the incentives were not aligned for the consumers to do it again and again, right? There was no clear, people were doing it voluntarily and they felt that mujhe kya mil raha hai on the finance side, right? So then we had to go start speaking to different businesses on the demand side, right? Which I think today is still an unsolved problem, at least in the domestic market. We don't see much demand, and hopefully through the years we see more inertia, right? So that's on the demand side, right? Specifically to India. What we realized along the way is there's a lot of global capital sitting that don't mind putting in, finance through carbon mechanisms to supply in India, right? Whether it's Alt Carbon, whether it's some of the other companies in this space, there's so much willingness to fund solutions, but again, it required high quality solutions because their threshold is very scientific. Requires technology to monitor, report, and verify, and they want to make sure that the end communities, right, ended up sort of benefiting from the finance that they're providing, right? So then we started focusing our solutions on the supply side. We started working with smallholder farmers across the country, where we said what carbon finance can be channeled to these smallholder farmers. These are typically your 1 hectare, 2 hectare farmers, which in India is quite the large number, quite large number of farmers. And these farmers had mostly degraded land and did not know sort of what to do with it. So then large part of the carbon finance that we are generating from climbs was used to sort of enable some of these farmers to transition to climate smart agriculture or to transition to agroforestry as well. So I'll just share one story, right? It was a retired army official who had some land in Maharashtra but did not know, or did not know what to do from a agroforestry perspective and did not have the resources to even set up drip irrigation systems. So we took the carbon finance that we were channeling from climbs, worked with a farmer to help him grow mango, guava, lemon, and help set up drip irrigation systems, right? And today his income from that area, we started this in 2022, we are in 2025 now. His average income has almost gone up to about 70,000 or 80,000 for that hectare, and possibly in the next 2 years will 3x from here, right? So that's the power of channeling carbon finance. And this was, I think we didn't channel more than like 2 or 3 lakhs into that particular farm. So if 3 lakhs can do such kind of an impact to a smallholder, our view is that if the market streamline and more carbon finance comes in, the sort of second order, third order effects that we can have with smallholder farmers in this country is significant, right? So coming to technology, what we built was, again, I know we're criticizing blockchain a lot, like we also don't believe in blockchain, just because in an Indian context, like I think it's too expensive from an infrastructure perspective to go to smallholder farmers or to even build up the infrastructure set up to have blockchain-based solutions. So we've actually kept it super simple. We've built on top of what the Indian government has already built, right? So a large part of our solutions showcasing money flow to the farmers are built on top of India Stack, right? So we've used DigiLocker, Aadhaar, right? Aadhaar-based KYC to ensure that, a person sitting in the UK or the US, if their carbon finance is being channeled into India, can they see it on one platform and can they verify all of this, right? So we've built on top of whatever solutions are available and we've built it in a low cost way. Because in India, if you have to really sort of work with smallholder farmers, cost needs to be super essential. So the power of technology is how you use and compound on existing systems, and we've used, digital public infrastructure that India has already built, and we believe that we can continue to build on top of it. And just to come from a scale of finance perspective, right? Today the compliance market is 100 billion. The voluntary market is $5-6 billion, right? The last year reported number was 2 billion in terms of sales, but then there's a lot of forward contracts and offtakes that are going in. So taking into that account, it's 6 billion, right? And the reality is India is not getting much of the compliance market share, right, today, because we've not yet, I know there's chatter around Article 6 and clarity around Article 6, and we're hopeful that, as and when the government sort of gives clarity on agriculture, I think this afternoon, the Ministry of Forest was saying that agriculture is something that they could open up. If that starts to come into the ambit of compliance, right, I would probably see like at least, an additional $10-15 billion to come into agri carbon finance alone in the next sort of 3-4 years. And as the compliance market itself grows from 100 billion, we see this opportunity scaling.
Thank you. And now I think I don't know how much time is left, but I want to go second round. And second round would be, we would certainly like to know, moving from here, you have technological solution, you have assessment of finance, and there is a interface of data and all that. And then again, 3 of you are tech people. So we would like to have a sense of, the kind of a future, sense of progress. And in that progress, what are the wish lists that what you like to have in terms of policy, regulation, finance, whatever collaboration? So just, we would request to 1 minute capsule of that intervention from each one of you. Yeah. So one by one, Sarang, you can please take.
Well, so in terms of what we see in the future for us is scaling our solution to hundreds of thousands of farmers. We're already working with 10,000 farmers in Maharashtra alone. So over there, one of the key things that requires assistance is initial cash influx. And over there, forward contracts can be a potential solution. To be very frank, I am not too clear about the whole forward contract mechanism. Perhaps if the Indian carbon market could assist in that. Yeah, or if you guys could assist in that, that would be great. So that is one key thing. And the other bit would be, how can we add new technological solutions integrated within the market itself so that there can be transparency. So that is something that we would want.
I'll keep this super short. So I think my wish would be if there can be greater recognition around the fact that a lot of these problems are adaptive challenges, which means that a lot of these problems cannot be solved by one person or one team or one company alone. It can't even be solved by like the 5-6 people sitting on the stage, including myself. And a lot of these problems requires a very strong stakeholder view as opposed to like a very strong shareholder view. You see that currently playing out, as you know, I think you pointed out the difference between the compliance and the voluntary markets. That's more of a shareholder versus stakeholder kind of lens in action there. So I think if the government and people who are attending this conference, if there can be greater focus on, let's say, deep tech investment, if there can be greater focus on solving the problems that might affect us 10, 20, 30 years from now, I mean, one is to solve what is in the present, but one is also to have policy around what might affect us 10 years from now. If that kind of lens can be taken, that would be amazing, right? That would be my 1 minute wish.
Thank you.
Yeah. So for me, I think I've come from having invested in different sectors, whether it's fintech or consumer internet, right? And what I saw in fintech was the ecosystem, the public policy or the regulatory ecosystem in fintech was really enabling startups and more importantly, different banks as well to scale, right? If you look at NPCI, the National Payment Corporation of India, they really through eKYC and through e-payments really created a payment revolution in the country, right? With digital payments. I think we definitely, as a carbon finance ecosystem or as a carbon market ecosystem, if the government could take technology more seriously to see how we could incentivize everyone in the value chain and possibly create technological infrastructure that can really enable more capital to flow both domestically and globally alongside setting up the guardrails really well, I think we could see possibly $40-50 billion of capital come in the next 6 years, right? We don't have to wait till 2070 to meet our NDCs. Possibly we can do it 20 years ahead of time. And I keep telling folks in the climate ecosystem that if we all have to collectively improve our chances of getting to net zero faster, I think looking at what the fintech ecosystem did to enable financial services, same way if we could do that with climate finance and carbon markets, and we have pretty smart technology folks here who could help us figure that out along the way. So if the government could hear us out and see what could be done to integrate it, hopefully 5 years from now, we are sitting at a conference as big as what today the NPCI conferences are. So, yeah.
So for me, the wish list item would be do not water down reporting and disclosure requirements. You know, the recent BRSR watering down of the, going to assessment instead of assurance, that's just so retrograde in my mind, right? I mean, on the one hand, we have CCTS and CBAM looming, and the very setup that can help us get set for global competitiveness and carbon competitiveness, we are watering it down. And instead of looking at it as an opportunity, we are looking at it as, as a source of angst. We have Google Maps that self-regulates traffic to NH8 from Delhi to Gurgaon every evening. Every vehicle will be shown a different route. We have bill pay on net banking giving electricity use data for at the home level, but we say we cannot solve for scope 3. I think it's just don't ask, don't tell, and look the other way. And there are elegant ways to get to 100% raw primary data capture, and we just need to not water down the requirements.
Very quickly, from 2009 to 2021, India developed about 70% of all global carbon credits, but they were very low quality carbon credits, you know, the cook stove kind, which nobody is really buying anymore in the market. And climate finance, everyone keeps talking about carbon credits as a way to remove carbon, but it's also a way to move climate finance. Now, I think that one good way in which the BE can actually help the carbon removal ecosystem is that under Article 6, there are 13 to 14 activities that have been approved. And within that, already there has been a subcategory called CCUS and carbon removal. Within that, I think that sending out a stronger signal that the pathways as per IPCC, which are categorized as carbon removal, adding that as another activity would really help with regards to the bilateral negotiation on JCM with countries like Japan, with Korea, Singapore, and Switzerland. Because from there, we are going to start seeing a huge amount of demand starting to come up. And I can say this because we are already starting to speak with some companies there. So I think that is one specific way in which if the Ministry of Power can help us with including carbon removal activities under the Article 6 mechanism and then taking it for the joint crediting mechanism bilateral negotiations, that would be very helpful. Not just for us, but I think in general for the other companies in the space.
Thank you. Now, I think we'll take 3 questions from the audience. If at all there are questions, then we would be breaking for the plenary. If not, I think the panel have been very efficient and very clear that there is a clarity of... so I request for a big round of applause for our distinguished panelists. So thank you, panelists, for excellent, interventions and a lot of learnings from. And we hope that for us is 2070 is another milestone, but life will continue beyond that. Your innovations will be needed beyond the times of 2070. So with hope that, innovations will be coming and the finances will be flowing and people will be here to take this at the kind of situation where our global average temperature doesn't cross at least the 2 degrees centigrade. With that hope, thank you all for excellent being audience and panelists. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kumar. And Mr. Ashish Agarwal wasn't able to join us, but I would like to thank all the other panelists for their discussion. Before we get you off the stage, we'd like to felicitate you with a token of our gratitude. Can we have Mr. Pankaj from PwC felicitating our panelists and, of course, our chair? First, we have Mr. Dhananjay. Oh, apologies. First, we have Mr. Sarang Nerkar. Ooh. No problem. Yep. First, we have Mr. Sarang Nerkar. We'd like to felicitate you with a token of our gratitude. Then we have Mr. Dhananjay Goyal. We have Mr. Sparsh Agarwal. We have Mr. Siddharth Jayaram. And we have Mr. Alok A. Deshmukh. And of course, we have our chair and moderator, Dr. Ashok Kumar. A round of applause, please, for our entire group of panelists and the moderator. I would request everyone to stay on the stage for just another moment for a group photograph, including our felicitator. Thank you. All right, thank you so much to our panelists and our moderator and our felicitator. Just for everyone's information, the sessions in this ballroom are now over. I would request you to please move back to the Regency Ballroom, which is where we started our day, for plenary session 5, Leveraging Finance for Deployment of Clean Technologies. Thank you so much, everyone.